Good job. Thank you. Thank you. Good job.
The season finale.
We should go get tomorrow on Tips if I would for you. And
Will you do that, please?
Yeah, thank you very much.
I'll make sure it goes.
Thank you.
Great job. Thank you.
Mr. Trump.
Hello, how are you?
Great job.
Anything I can do in to help.
Okay, absolutely.
I'll get that thing done
Okay.
so fast, so inexpensively. And it'll
I'm gonna
be,
get you the answer.
so I'd love to do it, okay?
Yeah, we're not going to make this.
Good. I think this new guy, he can just start and he can speak. This may help him get started afresh.
Well, if you get me involved in that, I'll make sure I watch your money. I don't want anything, but I'll watch your money.
Looks like we don't have any. No questions?
Well, I thought the fact that he came over to me and was willing to listen was really very nice and very smart. And if he did call me, I would certainly want to help the United Nations and help these great gentlemen who are working so hard to really do something with the United Nations and, you know, to spend the money more wisely. They don't want to spend it on brick and mortar if they don't have to. If they can spend half of the money or 1/3 of the money, which is really what I'm saying, and then take $1 billion and focus on AIDS and problems and famine and all of the other things that they work on, I'm all for that, and they are all for that. Well, it was nothing much. I mean, I received a letter, and the letter was, well, we're looking into things, et cetera, et cetera. So I was a little disappointed, to put it mildly. I thought he was going to call and say, get over here. These guys would have called and said, be over here tomorrow morning at 7, not 8, 7. But I never heard from him. He wrote a letter. It was a very nice letter, but it was a tap dance.
I think, one, there ought to be a complete stop until they've really looked at this. I think there's no question that this thing is a boondoggle in terms of cost, and it is going to cost more than $1.2 billion. I think the thing we heard today is they didn't know what it's going to cost, but they'd already decided on the $1.2 billion loan. I think that tells the Ronaldo thing, that he's no longer a contractor. That firm is no longer. Why? We should know that. And nobody knows exactly how much has been paid for it. So I think there's a lot of questions that the UN needs to say, time out, we'll start all over. Maybe we might learn something from one of the best developers in New York City.
I would just say that Mr. Trump made clear, and the answers or lack of them made clear, that they really don't know what they're doing. They don't have a clear vision of what they want to accomplish. Therefore, you can't make good plans and develop an efficient system to accomplish those plans. So I think that came out quite clear, and I do believe it's raised quite serious questions about cost, and I'm hoping that Mr. Burnham now, he's new on the job, he has an opportunity to start afresh. Maybe the impetus of this hearing will do so, and it would be good for the UN if it did.
Well, I think the more important thing is to develop a culture of transparency, not just at the United Nations. We're having trouble with that in our own government, and we got to do that. We owe that to our children and our grandchildren. You heard the ambassador say there's some things that she's willing to talk about, not an open record. We're going to take her up on that. We'll find out where that needs to go, and we'll work that area. This committee will not let go of this issue, period.
I would just point out that the UN office building in New York, and that's all it is an office building. The cost of that was extraordinary. It was more than the Boston courthouse, which was at the time considered the most expensive GSA project in the country. So I think the ambassador hopefully should keep an eye on that own building that they're in. I objected at the time, toured the building, and I thought that the costs were way above what was justified.
Senator, are you making any efforts to block the U.S. government's motion to Senator Cam's efforts started April 30th
The Senate, by unanimous consent, did accept a limitation on the amount of the loan requiring the Secretary of State to certify a need to go above that. That will go to conference after this hearing. I'm not sure. Maybe we ought to talk to the conferees about tightening that language up. So I think the Senate is concerned on a bipartisan basis about the cost of this. And one way to get some transparency would be to contain that loan. I would note the transparency really is a problem, since nobody could tell us how much has been paid for an architect, how much the contract said, which apparently is secret, how it was awarded, what the other bids were. And once again, making those processes transparent for the world will eliminate a lot of abuse and corruption.
I think that's it. Thank you all very much.